everyone. So this is my second video with the Tojiro Shirogami Carbon Steel Santoku. First one was just an unboxing and initial impressions from sharpness tests, stuff like that. I'll put a card up here if you haven't seen it yet. Today I'm going to replace the stock kind of generic handle with this nice dyed and stabilized wood handle. So real simple process. All you really need is a wooden block that's longer than the blade, a hammer or mallet of some sort, a set of jewelry files, and some beeswax. So first step, removing the handle. Make sure you tape up the edge, both to protect the edge and your fingers as you're removing the handle. So what you want to do is you find a nice flat edge on the wooden block, lay the blade in the center, hold it with your fingertips. Even though the edge is taped, you still don't want to risk holding it like that. So hold it with your fingers. Make sure the handle is right up on that block. Take your mallet and you just hit it a few times. See if it's loosened up a little. Just give it a couple more. And that's it. That's nice and clean. Next, quick test fit on this. Alright, so you see it still has a ways to go. There's the line where we want it. This is as far as it goes. So we're just going to take one of our jewelry files, put it right in there and open it up. Right, so I'm going to put it back in to where it goes up to. Take a look, see if you can see where it's getting stuck, and then just trial and error. File a piece of it out, put it back in, take a look, see where it's getting stuck, and you just do that a little bit at a time until you can get it till it's about 1/8 of an inch or so from the line you want it. And that should be enough for you to tap in, and with the beeswax it'll hold nice and steady. You can use epoxy as well, but that's only if you're 100% certain that this is the handle and knife combo that you want permanently, because once you put the epoxy in, you're not going to be able to remove it without breaking the handle off. So if you're fine with that, go with the epoxy. It's definitely going to be more sturdy. But if you think you might want to change the handle in the future and you don't want to destroy the handle, the friction fit plus the beeswax is definitely strong enough. So I'm going to go ahead and do this file work off camera, and I'll be back when it's ready for the next step. Alright, so it took about 15-20 minutes, probably closer to 20 minutes of filing to get it to this point, but you can see here that where there's the line where the old handle ended. We're pretty much there. A few taps should get it right where we want it. And so next, we're gonna fill it with beeswax. We're gonna heat the tang, and it's important that when you're heating the tang that you hold the blade with your hand to make sure you don't overheat it. If it gets too hot to touch, you're at risk of ruining the temper on your blade. So you want to just heat the very tip of it. You can actually see where they heated it before to burn through on the original handle. It's that dark area is probably right up about here. So you want to heat the tip, holding it with your hand. If you feel it start to warm up, you want to let it cool down before you proceed any further. It doesn't need to get that hot because you're just melting beeswax with it. I'm going to be using my TS8000 torch that I use for searing steaks and such, but you can also just use your stove top or any sort of torch lighter, creme brulee torch, etc. Alright. First, I'm actually going to tape up the handles, so if there's any overflow from the wax, it'll be easier to clean. Just gonna line that up on the edge there. Again, you get any wax on it, not the end of the world. It is just beeswax. It'll come off pretty easily. If you're using epoxy though, you definitely want to make sure that you're taping and protecting very well. Epoxy will be quite a bit harder to clean up. So the hole goes quite a bit deeper than the tang does. So you can see the tang kind of matches up with, it's a little shorter than where the filing point ends. But if I insert it, it goes all the way down to here. So I'm gonna add enough of the beeswax pellets till it's about ½ an inch, maybe a little less than that, away from the top there. A couple of taps, let it settle in there. So the beeswax not only helps hold the blade in place, it also provides a waterproof seal. So as you're washing your knife, you don't get water in between the seams here, especially with a steel like the Shirogami. It's highly reactive. You get water in there, your tang will start to rust pretty quickly. Alright, see it's about ½ an inch from the top, and we're just gonna, like I mentioned, hold this with your hand. Once it gets hot, you're just gonna push it down as far as you can, and then we're just gonna tap it a few times there. While the wax is still melted, you just want to make sure you position the blade so it's nice and centered, it's not twisted or anything like that. You can see where I'm holding it, it's not even getting warm, so I know that it's not overheating, but that should be hot enough to at least melt the wax. Yep, you can see it melts the wax, goes right in, and it's kind of where we want it. Give it 3 firm taps. Almost there. I'm going to give it 2 more. And that's pretty much perfect. You can see the line is exactly where it needs to be. Blade is nice and straight. It's not twisted. It looks like I could have added some more beeswax, but that's no problem. You can can just push them in and then melt it with a little torch lighter, or you can use like a little pot, melt the beeswax, and then pour it in or spoon it in, which is what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to let this cool and solidify, and then I'm going to melt some beeswax. Probably just going to use a pipette actually to fill in those gaps, just to make sure we don't have water seeping in. Alright, see some melted beeswax in there. Draw it up with the pipette. It's in there. So once I peel the tape, I'll clean it up a little more, but I just want to make sure that there's no gaps where water can make its way in. So every little hole I'm just plugging the wax while it's still warm, just using my fingers to really push it into those gaps. All right. Okay. I'm going to grab a little, like a small torch lighter, and just let it melt and seep in a little bit more. Touching it, making sure that it's not overheating. Make sure the blade is still cool and not too hot to touch. Right, blade never got more than just a little bit warm, so I know I don't have any issues with the temper. Just burn the tape there. Right. So now you can, how I can see it in the video, we can see the wax is really nice and deep in there now. Now we just have to let it cool, and then I'll take the tape off, clean up any wax that dribbled off, like this line here. But again, it's just beeswax, so pretty easy to clean off, and we'll see what it looks like. Alright, here it is all cleaned up. Really love the colors on this handle. So it's just dyed wood and then stabilized with resin. See, it's nice and straight in the handle. It's definitely nice and tight in there, not going anywhere. If you ever do want to remove it, same thing with the wood block. Might need to give it a few extra taps because of the beeswax, but it shouldn't be too difficult to remove the handle when you want to. But unless you drop it or see some serious impact, I highly doubt it'll ever just slide out on its own. It is in there very well. So there you have it. Now, this kind of very plain looking light wood handle, now replaced with this gorgeous stabilized wood handle. All right. So next video with the Tojiro Shirogami is going to be a sharpening video. I want to see how sharp I can actually get it out of the box. If you watch my first video, you can see that it was definitely serviceable. You can definitely take it right out of the box, start using it right away, but it's definitely not as sharp as it could be, considering that this is the Shirogami carbon steel. So I'm going to take it through my sharpening process on the next video and see how sharp I can actually get this thing. Thanks for watching.